dear friends, I'm happy to greet you once again in this Lenten season. And the Lenten season, as I said, is a season of grace, is a season of blessings too. There are many things perhaps that are left undone. There are so many things that we have gone a little more than what we should have done. And surely, Lenten season is the time to correct ourselves, to reorient our focus, and at the same time to await and to pray for God's graces. This Sunday is a Sunday wherein in the Lenten season we have a little of welcome relief, we may call it, or perhaps a joyous occasion to celebrate in the transfiguration of our Lord. You know what's transfiguration? That Jesus, in front of his disciples, he is completely covered with light, so much so the three disciples with him cannot even recognize him. And Jesus perhaps would like to give them a foretaste of what is resurrection, of what awaits for him and for everyone else at the end of our life. And so this small slide of the resurrection Jesus presents today as he is transfigured in front of his disciples, of his apostles. And when Jesus is transfigured and they are in a trance, as it were, the disciples, and Peter tells Jesus, perhaps we could stay here only. We need not go in the hustle and bustle of the people. Far from the madding crowds, we say, let's reside here itself. Perhaps we can make 3 tents, one for Moses, one for Jeremiah or the prophet, and one for yourself. And Jesus must have smiled at this suggestion. The disciples have still not changed. They have to learn many things. And so Jesus tells the disciples, not so, because we have to go down and our world or our life, our existence is there with the people. That is God's will for us. But before that, they hear the beautiful words from heaven. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. So perhaps, my dear brothers and sisters, these are the words that we should hear every day of our life, and especially on this Sunday, so as to keep it etched in our minds. I am God's beloved Son. I am God's beloved daughter. God has a purpose for me. And this purpose cannot be achieved without my active cooperation, and for which I have to work day after day with the Lord in order to perhaps regain my own territory that I have lost for my bad habits, my bad inclinations, intentions, thoughts perhaps, and once again come closer to God. This tent, we call it. St. Peter understood it. And he said, let us make 3 tents. You know, in the tent, when you go for a camping, you don't look for a big air-conditioned place or perhaps room, apartment. A tent is something that is temporary and we are comfortable in it. And St. Peter says, let us make 3 tents, meaning to say that let us also mingle or mix up with the elements and take what God gives us. So my dear friends, I wish you a good Sunday. It's a beautiful day, and Sunday, as I said, is a day of the family, is a day of the community, and more than anything else, a day of the Lord, to remember that God has given you one more day and Sunday to rest, to gather yourself, to be recollected, and at the same time to reach out to those who are in need. I wish you a very happy Sunday. Now let me take you to what's called the parish pastoral councils, which I have asked in my circular to all the priests of the Archdiocese to form in each of their parishes, Parish Pastoral Council and Parish Finance Committee. What is Parish Pastoral Council? Parish Pastoral Council is a mini council or perhaps a mini cabinet, the church cabinet in this particular parish. It consists of members from different walks of life who belong to this parish. Someone from another parish cannot be a member or representative of this parish, and therefore the ones who are in this parish decide among themselves who could be their representatives to voice their needs, to voice their suggestions to the parish priest, the parish clergy for the next 3 years. We have 3 sets of members. The first set is called the ex officio. That means those who are in office, officio. And who are in officio? Perhaps the parish priest, the sister superior, the head of the institution that is there in your parish, the elected office bearer, one office bearer, perhaps the president of the lay associations in the parish. Perhaps you have Legion of Mary, the president comes an ex officio member. Perhaps you have Vincent de Paul or the youth. So these officials of this form what we call the ex officio part of the parish council. Normally, about 25% of the parish council members could be the ex officio members. What I'm trying to say is if there are too many, perhaps ex officio members, too many associations or too many superiors, among them, perhaps we can take 1 or 2. The second category of the parish council members is called the elected members. Just as in elections, we have had recently elections for the government in certain states. So also, the church also encourages that some members are elected, about 50% of the whole parish council. And how are these elections to be done? Preferably in their own wards or perhaps in their own areas to gather. And from among those people of that area, that ward, 1 member or 2 members, depending on the number of members, the number of parishioners. So therefore, these are called the elected members. And finally, we have another last 25% of the members that are nominated. Who nominates them? The parish priest has the prerogative to nominate. And he nominates according to his perhaps goodwill, but taking into consideration certain things. He cannot just nominate someone from his own, known to him, friendly to him or related to him, or perhaps 3 or 4 members from one family or perhaps one area. No. In order to nominate, it is certain categories of people who are not representative, perhaps certain language group that is not representative, or some working group that is not representative. From among them, he takes 1 or 2 and makes up the 25% of the parish council, and totally 100% are the members that are first of all ex officio, that are elected and nominated. How big can be the parish council? It does not mean that we have to have 100 members and the more the merrier we can say, but the more could be also noisier. So therefore we say in smaller parishes about 20 members maximum. In the bigger parishes about 30, perhaps a little more than that, and they would represent everybody, and they, in a smaller group or the representatives together, there's a better communication, there's a better understanding, and we can have. The parish councils have to meet at least 4 times in a year. At the same time, there must be an agenda. There can't be any meeting without an agenda. So therefore, the agenda has to be made known or perhaps circulated a little earlier so that the members know what and how they have to react. The members, of course, bring the aspirations, the hopes, the dreams, the suggestions from among the parishioners, which the parish priest has to consider, and peacefully we have this particular statutory body in every parish called parish council. We have also the parish finance committee. The finance committee consists of minimum 7 members, out of which the parish priest, of course, is the presiding officer or the president. 3 members from among the parish council, they are taken so that there is a link between the parish council and the parish finance committee. And 3 more members the parish priest can nominate or perhaps can choose, but they must be someone who know the accounts, someone who perhaps have been conversant with the economy, with the money matters, perhaps a retired banker in your parish, or someone who is working in the government office as an accounts clerk, or perhaps if you are fortunate enough to have an auditor or accountant as one of your members, that would help also to circulate the matters of importance in your parish. At the same time, for the parish priest, it would be a good guidance to see how he has to collect money, how he has to spend the money. Honesty, integrity, and transparency should be the hallmarks of every parish. And for that, we have to have a good parish finance committee. So, my dear brothers and sisters, I have given instructions to our parish priest to finish this process. It was supposed to be finished in December, but since our corona was not ending, I have extended up to 15th of March. And after that, perhaps we start functioning. We are thinking of having what's called the training sessions for the new parish councils as to what is their expectation, what's their role, what's their duty, etc. So this process we shall start soon, but before that the parish priests are requested to finish their elections, their nominations, and send us the name for ratification. It's not only that you decide, the list has to be sent to us. We also vet it a little with the previous lists that have been here, perhaps a little of asking or questioning or finding out from the previous parish priest regarding certain members that have been mentioned there. And with all this, we give the ratified copy to the parish. I'm happy to say in the last circular I have already published about 40 parishes have already finished their process and sent us for ratification, and we have sent them back to start functioning normally after a small ceremony in the parish during a main mass where the members are introduced and prayed upon in a small way so that God may bless all of them. My dear brothers, I now speak to you about what we call, just as I spoke to you about the parish council elections. So also, as you know, the Bangalore city, the Bbmp, Bangalore, perhaps the central and the rural districts are going for what's called the Bbmp corporation elections. As far as we hear it from the newspapers and the media, it may be somewhere in the month of April or May, or we do not know if the government would decide to postpone it also. It has been postponed long enough, and the wards have also been increased from what was 198. We are told it may go up to 243 or perhaps even more than that. And there are certain seats that will be reserved for certain categories in certain areas, for women, for SC, ST, for general category, etc. And since we are Christians, we are responsible citizens. First of all, we have to vote, and vote sensibly. The persons that will do us good, that will be at the service of the community. And secondly, perhaps we also have to think of representing the community, which means stand for elections. There's nothing wrong in elections. The Christians, some of them at least, I know that they are very so much good. No, elections is not good. Politics is dirty. We should not go into that. Perhaps if we don't go into that, some other dirty people may come and rule over us, and therefore as conscientious citizens, it's our duty to not only vote in the elections but also stand as candidates. I've said it often that we are a minority, and being a minority, we cannot expect too many candidates from us to be elected. There are this, the majority communities are also there. But then to represent our people in some way, there must be some Christians who unitedly, without any opposition from each other, you know what I'm trying to say. Many a time we have seen that when one Catholic or Christian stands for election, he or she is opposed not by the others but opposed by our own people. There are 2 or 3 or 4 standing against this particular person, against each other, and in the end none of them get it. None of them get it. And therefore it's important also to get a what we call a consensus candidate from among us, so that this particular person will represent us for the next 4 years, 5 years, we do not know. In the city municipal corporation things, we need some roads, we need some permissions, and therefore these members are very important for us. And it's also important that we combine with the others. It's not only the Catholic vote that may matter. We have to join also the Protestants. Perhaps there are many Hindus and Muslims, because of the character of this person, selflessness of this person, they may also want to vote for him, and therefore we have to make these connections together. I'm just putting it a little in anticipation, because these things will come, but let us be prepared mentally at least in order to participate in our elections, and also make some certain people at least to stand as our representatives, as our elected members. It goes without saying, you can't elect if your name is not in the electoral list. So therefore you have to be careful to see that your name is there, which is the place that you have to go and vote. Perhaps is entered properly. And sometimes there are many, perhaps from the last election to this election, many have grown up. Those who were children have become adults and crossed 18 years, and therefore they also have to go and register as new voters. The old voters have to go and see whether their names are still there, or perhaps for some reason they have been wiped off. They have not. Sometimes when you don't vote in an election, in the next election your name may not come out automatically, because the government rightfully says that last time you have not voted and we do not know whether you are here, whether you are there, and therefore your name doesn't appear. So please go and see if your names are still there, which is the booth, and those who are new ones, 18 and above, kindly go and register. The Catholic Association units that have been started recently in some of the parishes have been requested in order to help the people to get what we call the election card, the Aadhaar card also. The Catholic Women's Cooperative also has started, so the women folk also can take leadership in this, and there are many women who are in small time government posts or government sort of missionary. They can also help the women and the girls to get themselves enlisted in the elections, and also perhaps the women candidates can also prepare for the elections. May I now go over to what's called, there's a big feast that is coming, the Feast of St. Joseph, 19th of March. It's a very endearing feast. Everyone loves St. Joseph. He is the father of the Holy Family and father of many of our families. Many of our churches have St. Joseph as the patron saint. I'm so happy. There's the church that I can just say about, the Bryan Square Church, St. Joseph's. There's one in Solur. There are some more perhaps in a city that may not be known to me by name, but then I know that there is a strong devotion for St. Joseph among our people. In fact, Wednesdays, many of our churches have this devotion, especially praying to St. Joseph. And 2 years back, or perhaps 3 years back, the Holy Father named St. Joseph as the patron of the year, the patron of this particular year, and we celebrated that year is the year of St. Joseph. In our Archdiocese, we also took the year of St. Joseph as the year of the poor, because St. Joseph is the patron of the poor. And St. Joseph is the patron of so many things. He is the patron of the laborers. He is the patron of the family, head of the family. He is the patron of all those migrants. He is the patron of ultimately also of a happy death. So therefore there are so many things that St. Joseph is connected with, 19th of March. And therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, I ask you to celebrate this feast with great love and affection. And I have suggested from last year, I have been suggesting, why not celebrate the feast of St. Joseph as the feast of your own fathers in the family. You know, the fathers in the family, they take the role of St. Joseph. Their duty is to protect the family. Their duty is to give to the family, make it resourceful, and spend their time and energy for the family. And I know that many of the fathers are doing it. Many are doing very quietly. And I don't say it's a strong remark. Many of them are not appreciated, but taken for granted. Taken for granted. Daddy has to do it. Daddy has to work. He has to bring the money. I need the money. Sometimes the wife and the children make it an issue. You have to bring it, but from where Daddy will bring the money? Is he not human? Has he got certain worries about him? Is there someone who has gone and talked to him? When is the last time perhaps you talked very kindly or dearly to your father? And so I suggest that the day of St. Joseph, the feast of St. Joseph, be also celebrated as the feast of the fathers, the husbands in our family. I have suggested to the women last week when we were closer to the Women's Day. I said Women's Day is surely to be celebrated, and we will try to celebrate in our parishes. And normally perhaps the Women's Day is to be celebrated more not by women but by men, the boys together. So also I said perhaps St. Joseph Day could be taken up by the women in order to celebrate as the day of the fathers, as the day of the husbands, as the day of the elder brothers in the family. It looks so nice that St. Joseph completes the family. As a foster father, he takes up responsibility of the whole family. And therefore let us be grateful to our fathers as we pray to St. Joseph on the feast of St. Joseph on 19th of March. I come to the questions that you ask me every time. There are two small questions, but quite interesting. The first question is, why are there no eucharistic ministers in the parishes in Bangalore? Why are there no eucharistic ministers? Are those that give communion? Why are there no perhaps lay ministers? I think that is a question, because the priests, the religious, the sisters have been distributing, but we find that there are no lay ministers in our churches. I saw it and I realized it also, and many a time I have told our priests that we should start having what's called the lay people also as ordained, rather nominated or appointed for this ministry of distributing Holy Communion in the churches. And the Eucharistic ministers are also allowed to take communion to the sick in the hospitals, in the houses. That also could be given. But what's interesting is, when I discussed with our priests, I think about 2 or 3 years back, many of the priests told me that they are not against the idea. They would surely welcome the lay people, men or women, to come to distribute. But the priest said, sometimes the lay people do not go to them for communion. There's a priest standing here, there's a sister standing there, there's a lay person standing there distributing communion. And it is noticed that surely people come to the priest, they go to the sister perhaps, but nobody, or rather very few, go to the lay persons, and therefore he gets discouraged, and is as good as this ministry has not been used properly. And for that reason, I have written in my circular that this month, on the 27th of March, that's the Sunday, we will be having a special seminar for those from the parishes who are deputed in order to be eucharistic ministers in the churches. So if your parish, if you perhaps have given your name, or the parish priests have selected certain persons, and there is a process also, because everyone cannot be a Eucharistic minister. A person of faith, a person of good morals has to be taken, because after all we are doing a service of the church. So therefore the parish priests will send the names to us. On 27th of March we will be having this course for the Eucharistic ministers. After that we commission them by introducing them to the parishes from where they have come, that these are the Eucharistic ministers who will help the parish priest in the distribution of communion, and perhaps even depute them to go and give communion to the sick. The second question that is asked here is, why is there no dress code for women when they come to the church for the sacrament of matrimony? Why is there no dress code for women when they come to the church for sacrament of matrimony? If I understand correctly, there are two things I can understand this. One is the women who come for the marriages in the church. The second is the bride herself. As far as I know, the bride is well dressed. She has to be well dressed. And in our traditions, we use the white dress, but it's not compulsory. The church has not imposed a dress code for the men or for women, that they have to be dressed in this way or that way. No, but something that works up the decorum of the partners, something modest, something that symbolizes the happiness of that day, the significance of that day. Surely it's the most important day in the life of the couple, the boy and the girl, and according to the dress also matters. I don't say that this is the dress, this is the code, but we have to have common sense and the what we call the common sensibility, the sensitivity of the community, in order to present the boy and the girl in the right manner. Secondly, perhaps if you are meaning that why don't people who come for Mass, perhaps the women are not dressed, I do not know whether that is also asked in this. I would subscribe to say that yes, women and men have to be well dressed when they come to the church. And the dress, it's the coming to attendance in the church is not a fashion show that we try to see and to be seen by the others. Not necessarily. We come to see God, and God sees us. And therefore, if I am to be presented to the people, I have also to present myself well. And therefore, the modesty part is very, very important for us to say that I have to be modestly dressed. I should not be a distraction for the people when I come for Mass. Many a times it does happen when some men or women come not dressed fully, or perhaps in a manner that is expected of them, the people start looking, the people perhaps get distracted. Sometimes it does happen, the people who go to the altar to read, they have to be, normally we say that your decorum has to be good, your dress has to be well, and therefore perhaps just leaving some things open or some things not attended to will surely distract the people during the Word of God, proclamation of the Word of God, and therefore you have to be well and modestly dressed. So my dear friends, I leave it at this. May it be a good week for you as we go week after week in the Lenten season, walking towards Easter, the glory of Jesus Christ. Thank you.
My dear friends, please do share your feedback, your impressions, and your experience, or send a message to the email address as you find on the screen, archdblr@gmail.com. And you also have the phone number, the mobile number, wherein you can send your message or WhatsApp on this number. Archbishop is ready and waiting to answer your questions. If you have any question, any doubt, any uncertainty, or there's no clarity upon something, you can ask those questions, and with the discretion that the Archbishop will surely answer these questions in the weekly feature Shepherd's Voice. Thank you, and we look forward to the next episodes.